and gentlemen, could we ask you at this time to please rise and join in singing the national anthem? Thank you, and won't you be seated, please? It gives me great pleasure to introduce the president of the senior class, Todd Sheedy, who will share a welcome with us at this time. Todd Sheedy.
Whoa, massive sea of red. You all look marvelous. On behalf of Armstrong High School, I would like to welcome you all to the 1988 senior graduation ceremony. But before we begin these frivolous festivities, I would like to appreciate a certain faculty member here at the ceremony tonight. He is retiring soon, and like all of us graduates here, I don't think he'll be back at Armstrong, hopefully. He is none other than Mr. Robert Farrell, Armstrong's retiring principal. Mr. Farrell has given District 281 many years of service, and I know we would all like to wish him well as he moves on to other things. Let's all give Mr. Farrell a hand. You know, Mr. Soley said to me one day, he said, "Todd, I got some guidelines for your presidential graduation speech." And he flips out this list, right? Rule number 1, short. It has to be short. Okay, I can handle that. Rule number 2, you know, Todd, since you're the president of the class, it has to be good, and we have to like it. And then he goes on and he tells me that I have to be the one who breaks this dreaded Armstrong taboo curse about the incredibly boring presidential speech. What the? I know you can handle it, Todd. Okay, sure. I stare at Mr. Soley, and my mouth drops down to my feet. Like, Mr. Soley, this is so unfair. I mean, do you expect a miracle or something? So I got home and I started writing my speech, and I started writing about this one time, the story about, it's a true story. I was sitting around at home doing what I usually do, which is absolutely nothing. I was kind of behind in every one of my classes. I didn't know if I was going to graduate or not, and the thought about it just kind of made me quiver, so I decided to turn on the radio. I flicked on the switch, and I went straight to KQ92, of course. But they were playing a song I really didn't particularly like. It was called "I Love Your Mama" by Three Dog Night. So I went straight to my second choice, which is absolutely 104. But I don't know, it just wasn't their night. I didn't really feel like banging my head to this song that they were playing by this band called SOD, Stormtroopers of Death. I'm sorry, I guess they just didn't turn my crank that night. I was flipping through the stations and I hit this one station, I think it's KTIS, but they were playing a song by Billy Joel. I dig Billy Joel. It was an older song, but as I listened to the lyrics, they made me think about this graduation tonight and receiving our diplomas and how hard we've worked just to reach this night. Well, and now that we're here and we're finally graduating, knock on wood, I thought I'd bring a few of these lyrics along so I could share them with you. They go something like this. This is the time to remember, though it won't last forever. These are the days to hold on to. We won't, although we'll want to. This is the time, and time is going to change. When I heard those words, I realized how much they reflect upon what's happening tonight. Although many of us just want to get our diplomas and go as far away from this place as they can, not really thinking or caring to look back because they say, heck, we're young, we have our whole lives to live in front of us. Well, sometimes looking back is kind of important to an individual. Being able to remember some of your friends and some of the things you did, and these friends that you played around with, you're probably never going to see them for the rest of your life. That's kind of tough when I think about it. All the wicked things I used to do and we all used to do, and if we got caught, sure, the cops would probably throw us in the slammer for a couple nights, but yeah, I remember them, yeah. Well, what I'm trying to say is, take some time out tonight to think about what has just happened to us. In a little while, we're going to get our diplomas, or those cases. But the important thing is, they signify 12 years of successfully passing school, and that's something to remember and be proud about. I am. Like everyone's told us a million times, hey, you made it. Yeah, we have. I guess it just really hasn't sunk in yet. And I guess what Billy Joel says is true. This is the time to remember. Thank you. We'll see you at the party.
Thank you, Todd. We have 2 student addresses this evening. The senior class has selected 2 seniors to represent them tonight in giving student addresses. John Teedy and Matthew O'Reilly will address the class in that order. John?
The name was correct, so we don't have to go into that. Good evening. Superintendent, members of the school board, family, friends, faculty, and fellow graduates. After looking out into this audience and looking into my chair where I just sat and seeing all these people, I'm having a tough time when I'm thinking about my speech right now, and I'm afraid it's not appropriate. So graduates, hang on to your seats, because I got a little story to tell. I went into my basement last night and camped out like I used to do when I was a kid. I put all the furniture in the middle of the room and threw blankets over it to make a tent. I crawled into my sleeping bag and I went to sleep. When I awoke, I heard the grandfather clock I never knew we had strike 2. I could have sworn I heard a noise, so I squeezed out between the chairs to see what it was. Before me stood a gorgeous blonde, the kind of girl that takes the breath out of you. She smiled. I looked up and said, "This is the best graduation present you could have given me." She looked me square in the eye and said, "John, I am the ghost of high school past. And before you say that speech tonight, I think there's some things you need to remember." We went back in time to the summer before our sophomore year. I saw myself and others, tense with anticipation, wondering how we would fit in, wondering how many times we'd be stuffed in that locker. Some of us were wondering how long it would take to beat the system, thinking 3 years would last forever, as the seniors told us it would be over just like that. We were back in my basement then. She smiled, waved goodbye, and walked out of the room, the story of my life. But at least I touched her twice. When I next awoke, the clock had just struck 3. I jumped out from under the blankets to see who she would be. It was a ghost named Panama Jack. You girls would like him, deep, dark tan. He was a really righteous dude. Told us he was the ghost of high school present. First I thought it was a nightmare. We were back in school. It was our senior year. We were ready to rule. We sat back and said, hey, we've worked hard. We walked through Dayton's with our MasterCards. We thought we were great, for we were the class of 1988. We were then back in my basement with just one ghost left. I shuddered at the thought and went back to bed. When I next awoke, the clock had struck 4, but I was scared. I didn't want to see anymore. A long fingernail poked at my shoulder. It was a tall figure robed in black. He must have been ugly, because he wouldn't let me see his face. I asked who he was, and he said, I am the ghost of the scary future. We were sitting in the middle of a black expanse. We could not see our future for certain, only glimpses. I kind of got the feeling that the future would be in our own hands, that maybe our diploma really was the ticket, that none of us could make the journey alone, that, yes, we may need to rely on our high school friends to help us through those rough spots and share in our successes. When I awoke this morning, I didn't know if last night was a dream or for real, but I knew what I'd be saying right now. This morning I jotted down a few things. The following is a poem from JT to the class of 1988. The end was near. We had it in sight. We all were prepared for that bash Thursday night. And then we were there, the last day of school. But it didn't seem real. We couldn't be done. We expected a fight to get out, or a whole lot of fun. But it didn't happen either way. We just walked out that door. A bunch of zombies who didn't seem to care anymore. A lot of us were split in two. We could care less for the building. We were worried about me, about you. For although we can discard this institution, the memories will remain. The achievements, the disappointments, they'll not be forgotten. The lost love, the friendships. That kid that flicked you in the back of the neck, boy was he rotten. But this is the last time we'll all be together. The next time you hear about someone, it'll be through the paper. You'll say, remember that kid that sat in the corner of the room, kind of smelled? He's the chairman of the board at IBM. Or remember Rel? Yeah, he's on the moon. They sent him up to do research just last June. Who knows where you and I will be when we next come face to face. But we'll both remember the times we shared. We'll laugh or just embrace. And then we'll smile, because we'll both know from the time our class begun that our great class of 1988 was destined to be number 1. You're the best, graduates. Good luck. Superintendent, members of the school board, friends, wrong speech. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt O'Reilly, and I was elected senior speaker this year. First of all, I'd like to clarify a few things. Thanks. Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to clarify a few things. Some of you might be wondering, I'm not bald. I do have some hair, and also, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm really not this big. I mean, no, so they probably got the robe screwed up somewhere, and King Kong Bundy probably got mine, and I got his. And he's probably sitting out there somewhere with a spandex robe on. That's mine. And so when thinking about what I was gonna say tonight, I figured I should have a little serious part and get away from the stand-up act. And I'd like to thank a few people, first of all, especially my parents, for their upbringing of a wonderful, gorgeous, ultra son, who they're very proud of and who they love very much. And they're the ones that won't whip my cute little butt when they see my report card. You know, if they wouldn't have been so strict about curfew and grades, I probably would have never turned out this way. You know, I would have never rebelled. You know, and when they said, hey, no, be home at 12, you know, I said, I think I'm going to get my head shaved. And when they said, no, you have to finish your homework first, I said, I think I'm going to get my ear pierced. I think I'm going to play electric guitar. You know? So thanks to them for the way it turned out. They're really cool. I'd also like to thank this school, Armstrong High School, the principals, the teachers, the students, and yes, Toto too. I mean, for being so supportive. I mean, we came into this place with our shoes on the wrong feet. I mean, total nerd baits. But now look at us. I mean, we're leaving this place with funny red hats and robes. I mean, we look dumber now than we probably will for the rest of our lives. I don't get it. Oh, but truly, this school has been the best time I've ever had. And this is the best class ever to graduate from Armstrong. And I'm really never going to forget this. Now I'd like to do a little something for you that I dreamed of doing as a sophomore, sitting out there. This song probably doesn't have anything to do with graduation, but I figure I'm going to do it anyway. Before I do, I'd like to apologize to the captain of the chess team for my snide comment in large group. Yeah, and I'm just gonna pause for a second. This is from John, Todd, and I, for all those people who asked us to say their names. Thank you. And the last thing, Brock will miss you next year. Now, the song goes a little something like this. Come on. You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. And there's no tenderness like before in your fingertips. You're trying hard not to show it, but baby, I love it. You've lost that loving feeling. Whoa, that loving feeling. You've lost that loving feeling. Now it's gone, gone, gone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ba-dum, 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 dum, dum. Baby, baby, I get down on my knees for you. Ba-dum, 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 dum, dum. Yeah, that's it. That's the news, and I am out of here.
At this time, the Robbinsdale Armstrong Commencement Band and Select Choir will join together in presenting a section entitled From Sea to Shining Sea by Samuel Ward.
Your programs, it says that it's conducted by James French and Richard Edstrom, but we have a change. We thought that since Mr. Farrell started his long career as a music teacher, that it would be appropriate for him to end his educational career conducting. So our guest conductor tonight is Mr. Robert Farrell.
Thank you, music people. Each and every one of us has the ability to reach out, to grow, to change for the better, to set our goals, and to start traveling in the direction of our dreams. These are the thoughts of Colin McCarty. Special words on a special night. Platform guests, parents and friends, class of '88, ladies and gentlemen. Graduation, a memorable occasion, a night to remember. This is a unique moment, for tonight we formally acknowledge the achievement of a goal. The successful completion of 12 years of education for 676 young people. Now, this goal is only the first of many, but a very important one, and its attainment is witnessed by all in attendance this evening. Goals are so important, for they give directions to our lives. As Zig Ziglar said in his book, See You at the Top, you must have a goal because it is just as difficult to reach a destination you don't have as it is to come back from a place you have never been. You must have precise and clearly set goals to realize your true potential. Now, goals come in many shapes and varieties: physical, financial, spiritual, career, family, mental, social, just to mention a few. Class of '88, what are your goals? Again, what are your goals? In preparing for this graduation night, I took the liberty of polling about 150 members of your group. It was interesting to note that all of you had great similarity in what you wanted out of life. In other words, your goals. But to your credit, and this is a special class, but to your credit, money and position, while very important to you, were not necessarily always number one. Family, service, physical, and spiritual goals were frequently found on your list. But goals, regardless of type, all have certain characteristics in common. First, they must be big. They must have scope. Two, they should be short as well as long range in nature. And three, they should be specific. Where are you in your goal setting? I'm reminded of an article that I read in a local newspaper a number of years ago of an incident that happened at a racetrack. Now, this was a dog racetrack in Florida. It seems there was a malfunction of the mechanical rabbit, and the dogs, for the first time in racetrack history, caught the rabbit. Now, the dogs had been trained as their only goal in life was to catch the elusive hare. This was a planned but unattainable goal. So it was that way until that particular day. It is interesting to note the reported reactions of the dog when they finally caught the rabbit. One dog lost interest immediately, sat down, scratched his ear. Another canine walked across the infield totally oblivious to what was going on, while two others just stood and barked. The rest of the pack ran to the mechanical marvel and tore it to pieces. Now, there is a message here for us, class of '88, in this, in quotes, dog behavior. The dog's goals were too short-ranged and too specific. When they were achieved, the future literally dropped away for our animal friends, and they became confused and disoriented. And this can be true of humans as well. Goals are a roadmap for a life trip of success. You must plan carefully and wisely. Make those goals realistic, attainable, and meaningful, as well as large and specific. As Ralph Edwards of the old TV show said, this is your life. Students, make the most of every moment of your life. And now just a personal note. As was said before, this is a special night for me also. Tonight, after 40 years in education, I, if you excuse the expression, graduate. It's about time, wouldn't you say? It's been a distinct pleasure working with young people all these years in the field of education, and it also gives me a great deal of satisfaction to say that each year has been just a little bit more satisfying and just a little neater than the one before. This class of '88 has been a true joy to be associated with, and I thank you for those qualities that make you very special to me. I'm honored to share this night of graduation with you. Thank you. You really are special, you know. The Honors and Scholarships Award insert in the program tonight includes only those who volunteered this information, which is in accordance with the Data Privacy Act. The class of '88 has 15 valedictorians. This means these people maintained over a 3-year period a grade point of 4.0. Ladies and gentlemen, this signifies a straight A average, the very best of the best. Would each young person please stand as their name is read and remain standing until all have been recognized? Audience, we're going to ask you to hold your applause until all have been named. These are the valedictorians for the class of '88. Scott James Davis, Michael Druskin, Michael John Gerard, Russell Sherman Guile, Amy Michelle Gustafson, Diane Lynn Johnson, Melissa Joy King, Leslie Brian Korsch, Craig Leighton Larson, Christine Marie Rhodes, David William Salmi, Deborah Merle Schaff, Monica Lee Seams, Jean Elizabeth Toomey, and Kaman Wong. These, ladies and gentlemen, are the cream of the group, right here. A big round of applause. There are 26 salutatorians in this graduating class this evening. They represent a group nearly as perfect in grade point, with a GAP of 3.8 to 3.99. Students, again, please stand as your name is read and remain standing until all have been recognized. And again, audience, we would appreciate if you'd hold your applause until all have been named. These are the salutatorians for the class of 1988. Janelle Ruth Andrus, Rael R.E. Bennett, Denise Joan Broadhurst, Andrew Leslie Freeberg, Dmitri Gorbangoff, Amy Joelle Greenberg, Jill Lene Griffith, Wendy Sue Hammer, Susanna Louise Hart, Christina Louise Hodge, Patricia M. Humboldt, Erica Ann Humpke, Christine K. Johansson, Andrea D. Johnson, Katina Kaplan, Nicole Ann Kruger, David John Moon, Angela Marie Nelson, Grace Pay, Sarah Jean Parrish, Anne Denise Rasmussen, Anne Marie Elizabeth Singer, Christopher Paul Slater, John Spencer Teedy, Christy Ann Wagle, and Paula K. Weaver. Valedictorians, ladies and gentlemen, class 1988. Won't you be seated? Thank you. Another group of young people that deserve special recognition are those wearing gold honor cords. This signifies a grade point average of 3.0 or better. Would all students wearing honor cords stand at this time and be recognized by a round of applause? Honor graduates, ladies and gentlemen, honor graduates, 3.0 or better. Thank you. And won't you be seated? At this time, I'm very pleased to recognize the foreign exchange students that have spent the year with us. Present this evening also is the American family that has been the host of these young people. We'd like at this time for the foreign exchange students and their American families to stand. Audience, let's recognize these people with a well-deserved round of applause. Foreign exchange students, please stand, and families of these people, please stand. Thank you, and won't you be seated? A special award was presented this morning at practice. Each year, the Robbinsdale Armstrong Social Studies Department presents the Wendell Larson Award. This award memorializes Wendell Larson, a social studies teacher who died of cancer in 1976. The award is given to a senior student who typifies Wendell's commitment to academic excellence, school spirit, and community involvement. This year's winner of the Wendell Larson Award is Ann Elizabeth Molly. Ann, will you please stand? Ann, you're getting taller every day. Homeroom teachers are seated with the seniors and in most cases have been with them for all 3 years. Please stand, homeroom teachers, and be recognized. The homeroom teachers will be reading the graduate's name. Homeroom teachers. And don't they look grand in their academic vestments there? The school year 1988-89 has been an excellent one. This was due to loyal, dedicated assistant principals. Armstrong had such this year, and they are in the personage of 3 fine men. Gentlemen, please stand when your name is read and receive the recognition of this gathering. Merle Soley, principal of the seniors. Dennis Biagini, principal of the juniors. And Irv Garby, principal of the sophomores. Class of 1988, the time has arrived. Dr. Donna Carter, won't you come forward, please? Dr. Carter, Superintendent of Schools, I hereby present to you the class of 1988 as having satisfactorily completed the course of study as prescribed by Independent School District 281 and the state of Minnesota. I also include those who will, upon summer school, complete their requirements. Dr. Carter.
Good evening, seniors, parents, school board members, administration, faculty, and friends. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor for me to be here this evening. This particular night is the single most meaningful event to me annually, for it's the culmination of not 12, but 13, don't forget kindergarten, 13 years in our educational system. It's both an emotional and a thought-provoking time, not only for our seniors and our parents, but also for our teachers and for me personally. It evokes emotion because of the unanswerable questions. Have we provided the very best education for you? Have we taught you to think? Have we taught you to question? Have we taught you to problem solve? Have we taught you to strive for excellence and to stand up with the courage of your convictions? For your parents, this is also an emotional and a thought-provoking time. They, too, are wondering about your past as well as your future. They, too, are wondering if they have prepared you well. And as they're wondering, they're also questioning, what does the world hold for you in all of its tomorrows? Will it treat you gently or harshly? Will you live in peace throughout your life? Or will you be surrounded by war and turmoil? These are difficult times, and perhaps will become even more difficult. So as your parents question, they also hope that the world will treat you gently and that you are not too vulnerable or too innocent. For you, our seniors, tonight is your night. It's your time. A time of some formality, a time of some dignity, a time to rejoice, a time to celebrate, and a time to reflect. And I would ask each of you, as you graduate this evening, and in the days and weeks that lie ahead, to reflect on your past accomplishments, but more important, reflect on what you want to accomplish in the future and who you want to be. My wish for each of you is that you will all be winners. In closing, I'd like to share something with you that is not my own, but I don't know the author. It's called Winners versus Losers, and it reads, "The winner always has a program. The loser always has an excuse. The winner says, 'Let me do it for you.' The loser says, 'That's not my job.' The winner sees an answer for every problem. The loser sees a problem in every answer. The winner sees a green near every sand trap. The loser sees 2 or 3 sand traps near every green. The winner says, 'It may be difficult, but it's possible.' The loser says, 'It may be possible, but it's just too difficult.' Be a winner. Each of you are now winners, and I encourage you to continue your pursuit of knowledge and of winning. I'd like to sincerely thank your teachers for helping you and encouraging you, as well as providing an atmosphere of learning. And finally, one last thought. Don't just take the easy way out. Don't take the most comfortable way. Commit yourself to your own success. You'll never regret it. And my favorite quote, as Garrity said, "Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it." Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. I care about you, and I wish you every success. Thank you. And now I'd like to present to you the representatives from the school board of District 281. Please stand and be recognized. Please hold your applause until all are standing. Mrs. Paula Bugan, Mrs. Patricia Hoyt-Niles, and Mrs. Patricia Norby. And now the time has come.
Before I ask the seniors to come forward to receive their diplomas, I want to ask the cooperation of the audience in holding their applause and restraining their jubilation until all names are read. This way we'll be able to hear the names as they are read. At that time, we will all join together after it has all been completed in a thunderous ovation that is truly deserved by this great group of young people. I thank you for your cooperation in advance. And now, seniors, the big long red line in the front row, won't you please stand and come forward.
Amy Lynn Alquist, Tamara Lynn Albers. Josh Albert. Eric John Albu. Sakia Ali. Julie Irene Ellen. Jacqueline Ann Elstad. Heidi Marie Anderson. John Michael Anderson. Kirk Gary Anderson. Lisa Marie Anderson. Mark Stewart Anderson. Molly K. Anderson. Richard Ellen Anderson. Tanya Lynn Anderson. Natasha Lorraine Avery. Joseph Anthony Battig. Catherine Lynn Bauer. Randy Ellen Brottig.
Janelle Ruth Andrus. Elaine Maria Andrews. Ione Joy Ansel. Lisa Lynn Arnold. Lisa Marie Asbridge. Gregory Asher. Robert Bachman. Barton John Bailey. Jennifer Ann Bailey. Christopher John Barnes. Kelly Lynn Barrett. Rebecca Joyce Baumgarten. Sarah Joy Beardsley. Michelle Lynn Beelan. Angela Bell Byer. Brian Louis Bell. Darlis Lynette Bell. Andrew Richard Benham. Kyle Lewis Benko. Rael Ari Bennett. Wayne Douglas Benchoof. Tamara Lee Burnick. Laura Ellen Bolt.
Daniel Lee Benz. Susan K. Bazant. Jill Elaine Bigelow. Kelly Christine Bindewald. Gary James Bishel. Scott David Blackstead. John William Blanchard. Craig Arthur Blankenship. Brian Emil Bloomquist. David Bluban. Lisa Christina Bodine. Susan Lynn Borhave. James Patrick Boldenow. Michael Douglas Borup. Mark Allen Borowiak. Mark Daniel Bott. Aaron Dirk Boyden. David Allen Brandstrom. Eric Martin Braun. Paul James Brewer.
Todd Michael Breifogel. Deborah Elizabeth Briscoe. Denise Joan Broadhurst. Lisa Ann Brockberg. Angela Marie Broad. Michael Robert Brum. Michael Bruce Bruno. William John Burmaster. Nadine Christine Vi. Melissa Marie Campbell. Anthony Ronning Carlson. Janelle Marie Carlson. Karen Marie Carlson. Tanya Moss Carlson. Jeffrey Eric Carlston. Gary John Karsten. David Michael Cartwright. Robin Michelle Casey. Connie K. Casperson. Brenda Marie Schell. Julie Ann Christensen. Neil L. Christensen, David Michael Dahlmeyer,
Deanna Patrice Brabant, Laura Pamela Sirakas, Tiffany Ann Christensen, Matthew Reed Christensen, Sherry Marie Christopher, Karen K. Sebazar, Jason A. Clark, Kurt Allen Klepper, Nathan Allen Clifton, Anthony Richard Cloutier, Stephen Bradley Cohen, Michael Cole, Molly Elizabeth Collins, Ronald Michael Combs, Stacy Noel Condon, William Paul Condon, Catherine Marie Connors, Jeffrey Grant Cooper, Aaron Cosgrove, Thomas McKee Crozier, Dean Paul Cummings, Allison Renee Courier, Kimberly Jane Curtis, Scott Matthew Dahlgren, Kirsten Louise Dunn, Michelle Claire Dolan, Rupasri Das,
Scott James Davis, Deborah Ann Dawada, Brian James DeGidio, Kimberly K. Debner, Joy Marie Derrick, Stacy Marie Dickinson, Eric Jonathan Durkis, To Min Do, Tuan Min Do, Karen Jean Doherty, Linda Jean Dosh, Michael Charles Downey, Derek Maurice Drunn, Michael Stephen Druskin, Matthew Gerald Duffy, Mark Allen Duray, Nicole Adrian Dales, Julie Christine Dyke, Warren Lester Eck, Dana Kathleen Eckenberg, Darlene Edgar, Marlene Edgar,
Andrea Drummond, Bill Edward, Andrea Lynn Ehlert, Eric Ekstrom, Martin Elmquist, Sandra Elwood, Philip Emerson, Jason Enberg, Michael Edward Engstrom, Sean Engstrom, Kristen Jolene Erickson, Steve Erickson, Kimberly Ernzer, Dana Eubanks, Linda Lee Evans, Marie Iwanica, Mike Fazenbender, Denise Ellen Feig, Randy Ferguson, Tracy Findorf, Sharice Fink.
Todd Joseph Feddick, Mark Oliver Fiedler, Ross A. Flom, Joshua Joe Fogel, Shelley Ann Folsom, Heather Ann Foss, Stephen James Fox, Anthony John Frederick, Andrew Leslie Freeberg, Debbie Michelle Friedman, Christine Martha Fritzy, Richard Peter Fry, Eric William Furchner, Rebecca Lou Gady, Debbie Ann Gom, Karen Suzanne Gallagher, Chad Andrew Gaska, Barbara Jane Geldert, Michael John Garrett's, Russell Sherman Giles, Amy Margaret Gilman, Robin Lee Gilmore, Alyssa Page Gerstenhaber.
Tracy Lee Ginsberg, Joseph Donald Gerard, Karen Marie Glodek, Nancy Jolene Nana, Keith Goodmanson, Rebecca Jean Goodsell, Scott Goodwin, Marlene Lydia Grangruth, David Gray, Amy Joelle Greenberg, James William Griefey, Pat Greiner, Jennifer K. Grupner, Jill Lene Griffith, Michael Matthew Gross, Michael Scott Gruthner, Amy Sue Gunderson, Richard Gunzel, Amy Michelle Gustafson, Andrew Gustafson, Paul Robert Gustafson, Brian Haberman, Kristen Ann Hartle, Ken Hagan, Michelle Lynn Hagan, Dimitri Gornbergoff,
Lee Christine Griffith, Jorn Ashla Hagen, Scott William Haig, Wendy Sue Hammer, Brooke Lee Hannanen, Rod Thomas Hansen, Mary Deanne Hansen, Todd Andrew Harrelson, Susanna Louise Hart, Shannon Elizabeth Harris, Kent Richard Harrison, Laura Lee Harrison, Blake Lester Harwell, Todd Winston Haug, James Matthew Hawkins, Rochelle Lynn Haynes, Lisa Marie Hazeldine, Jennifer Hedberg, Cheryl Renee Hedrick, Douglas Paul Hager, Peter Allen Hendrickson, Brady Lee Hitman.
Marie Dolores Godiel, Naomi Carissa Heller, James Allen Hensel, Lee Ross Herman, Matthew Michael Herman, Robin Rose Herman, Ross Stephen Herman, Stephen Ray Hermanson, Teresa Jean High, Jeffrey David Hill, Terry Lynn Hill, Tony Lynn Hill, Susan Marie Hills, Christina Louise Hodge, Victoria Elizabeth Hodge, Christine Lynn Hare, Teresa Monica Hoff, Judd Gustav Hofset, Shannon Elizabeth Hogan, Jonathan B. Hokinson, Susan Marie Hollis, Gentry Lachey Houston.
Heinz Dieter Heck, Maria Joanna Holder, Drake Richard Holter, Kelly Lynn Horowitz, Kara Lynn Houston, Keith Daniel Howard, Heather Ann Howery, Eric David Howison, Michael Lawrence Hoyt, Nicole Marie Huber, Catherine Ruth Hubner, Kurt Daniel Hittle, Tracy Joe Huffman, Patricia Marie Humboldt, Tracy Lynn Hume, Erica Ann Humke, Scott Owen Francis Hurley, Daniel Scott Husfeld, Sock Istone, Kaori Ishida, Jana Marie Jackson, Sharon Lynn Jackson, Valerie Ashley Halvenstadt,
Stephanie Michelle James, John Carl Jarnigan, Tony Martin Jarris, Tamara Lynn Jurgensen, Aaron Kathleen Jewett, Christine K. Johansson, Mitchell Parker Johnson, Andrea Danielle Johnson, Brian Alfred Johnson, Brian Keith Johnson, Christopher Michael Johnson, Diane Lynn Johnson, Jeffrey Frank Johnson, Julie Elizabeth Johnson, Tara Melanie Johnson, Terry John Taylor Jones, Robert Poe, Cheto Varndok, Masami Kaneko, Kristen Lynn Johnson, Laura Judith Johnson, Mark David Johnson, Perry Wilbert Johnson, Rachel Joy Johnson, Renee Michelle Johnson, Scott Allen Johnson, Scott Paul Johnson, Susan Christine Jones, Teresa Marie Jones, Kimberly Michelle Justison, Jill Ann Kaczorowski, Mark Thomas Tapping, Katie Ann Kaplan, Robert H. Kaplan, Paul Scott Carno, Amy Lynn Farrell, Nicholas John Kaufman, David Peter Kay, Nancy Ann Keene, J. Neil Kelly, Andrea Lynn Knutson, Joseph Michael Koss, Yoko S. Poto,
Michael Christopher Keywell, Catherine Marie Kipper, Melissa Joy King, Edward Lauren Kirchhoff, J. Anthony Kirchhoff, Karen Kirkham, Sharon Kirkham, Aaron Joseph Kittleson, Amy Lynn Klein, Kyle David Kleinschmidt, Carrie Lynn Klipstein, Julie Ann Kloster, Leanne Renee Knight, Susan Lynn Knott, Christina Ann Knudsen, Julie Marie Kobilka, Jennifer Lynn Koenig, Scott Allen Koenig, Chris Ann Colvig, Jan Lee,
Jody Lee Hornick, Wesley Ryan Horn, Kevin Charles Cross, Christine Marie Kosek, J. Thomas Koski, Jamie Lynn Kosnopol, Daniel Joseph Kotekny, Matthew Robert Colt, Vanessa J. Kotlowski, Catherine Suzanne Pratt, Michelle Elizabeth Kramer, Stephen Michael Krause, Douglas James Prine, Matthew Ward Krieger, Michael David Kringstead, Tracy Ann Promenade, Michael Jean Kruger, Nicole Ann Kruger, Natalie Ann Kruger, Sarah Ellen Kubiak, Charlene Loretta Heatley, Laura C. Kuhlman, Scott Allen Kunkel, Daniel John Kuhn.
Christy Ellen Coons, Eric Charles Killinen, David Joseph LaFond, Elizabeth Eileen Lampert, Michelle Renee Landry, Jessica Ann Lang, Joanne Marie Lang. Catherine Joyce Lappin. Elizabeth Vivian Larson. Jennifer H. Larson. Craig Layton Larson. Mark Andrew Larson. Troy Oliver Laugan. Michael Greg Lawrence. Christopher Thomas Layton. Christine Ann LeMay. Lisa Ann LeClaire. Ann Leslie Lee. Andrea Lynn Lehman. Brian James Lee. Kristen Ann Leader. Tori Ray Lindgren. Carrie Ann Luckera.
Stephen Paul Leninger. Beth Ling. Rebecca Lynn Lemp. Jennifer Ann Lester. Shannon Kathleen LeMay. Pamela K. Lewis. Jen Lee. Danette K. Liberty. Julie K. Lee. Tamara K. Lindbergh. Shannon Lindblad. Kimberly Beth Littman. Robert James Litterer. Beth Ellen Leckler. Eric Paul Logan. Paul Robert Long. Leon Lonstein. Dustin James Looning. Wendy Ann Lundgren. Lori Ann Luther. Gary Lee Madison. Ann Elizabeth Smalley. Hannah Meyerson.
Elise Joy Malinka. Shannon N. Manikowski. John Russell Manning. Timothy Allen Mantell. Tammy Lynn Maskey. Jason Michael Murata. Thomas Henry Mashoff. Watson Skip Mason. Bridget K. Matzinger. Peter Eugene May. Patrick J. McCollin. Colin James McComas. Mark Richard McDaniels. Elizabeth McDermott. Shannon Marie McGinty. Timothy Scott McGowan. Scott Arthur McIntyre. William M. McLaughlin. Robert Michael Mayer. Joanna Marie Melanchuk. Michael John Merritt.
Lee Eden Buckstein. Stephen Glenn Merritt. Brent Meyer. Corey Meyer. Terry Elizabeth Meyer. Turhouse Michael. David Theodore Mickelberg. Mark Adam Miller. Scott Charles Miller. Daniel Brennan Milton. Mihai Miu. Nikolai Miu. Jackie Ann Wyszynski. David John Moen. Wayne Molnow. Dean Edward Montre. Kelly Marie Moriarty. Ellen Rose Mutinka. Lori Ann Mocha. Michelle Mosey. Daniel Peter Mullally. Patrick Mulvihill. Christopher D. Mitchell. Christina Kathleen Munn. Amy Michelle Muscoplex. Jason Robert Nadeau. Angela Marie Nelson. Anthony Bruce Nelson. Gregory Scott Nelson. J. Scott Nelson. Jeffrey David Nelson. Stephen Andrew Nelson. Tracy Lynn Nestor. Edward Ethan Neuwirth. Michelle Ruth Neva. Tanya Elizabeth Newell. Han Son Wynn. Lynn Knopf Wynn. Kristen Marie Nielsen. Todd Spencer Neurestein. Linda Dawn Nordhaus. Carrie Jean Norman. Carrie Ann Narala. Thomas Richard Nyberg. Juan Tim Nystrom.
Kelly Ann Nathy. Dominic Stephen Nelson. Todd Douglas Nielsen. Aaron Kathleen O'Leary. Matthew Harrington O'Reilly. John Michael O'Ketty. John Carl Oden. Deborah Ann Offenbacher. Kelly Lynn Oliver. Corrine Marie Olson. Lara J. Olson. Eric Gordon Olson. Kara Marie Olson. Russell Ronald Olson. Eric Roger Olson. Antoinette Marie Oslin. Tamara Marie Ost. Stephen Oswald. Grace Y. Pay. Brian Dean Palmer. David Michael Peralt.
Sarah Jean Parrish. Julie Lynn Pedersen. Ann Peary. Julian Todd Pennington. Christine Marcel Perkins. Kathleen Mary Pastel. David Gordon Peterson. Brian Richard Peterson. Jennifer Joe Peterson. Jennifer Marie Peterson. Jessica Ann Peterson. Kelly Lynn Peterson. Mark Eugene Peterson. Todd Edward Peterson. Kong the Young Pom Pak Dai. Sarah Jane Plash. Brett Allen Pluger. Mark David Pohl. Andrew Donovan Porter. Sabrina Rose Preston. Carl Frederick Priggy.
Timothy John Princeton. Amy Froman. Laura Shea Puffer. Christy Rochelle Quiggle. Christopher Quinn. Don Rappanek. Ann Denise Rasmussen. Chris Redden. Ann Wright. Cheryl Lynn Rich. Mark G. Reichley. Ann Avis Rain. Joe Rhine. Tom Risewig. Tim Risewig. Greg Ryden. Stephen Wrench. Lynn Reesing. Colleen Rice. Erin Elizabeth Ryan. Elaine Marie Reichert.
Alfred Rolando Alvarez. Scott Beardsley. David William Bergquist. Becky Sue Brett. Mark Kaufman. Carrie Ann Eagles. Patricia Jean Howweller. Chip Jansen. Mark Joseph Kennedy. Erica Evelyn Orman. David Renschler. Aaron John Resch. Daniel Allen Sinander. Krista Jean Theben.
Karina Marianne Risen. Travis John Richards. Joel Scott Richmond. Anthony James Revezo. Robert Gregory Roach. Kevin Gerhard Roberts. Michelle K. Robinson. Michael Rockvam. Christine Marie Rode. Henry Stephen Raymer. Amy Elizabeth Rolando. Matthew Ross Ralnick. Eric Charles Ronson. Carla Ann Rootness. Julie Hope Rosenbaum. Deborah Lynn Rosenberg. Sean William Roskop. Amelia M. Rosen. Michelle Diane Rooker. Kelly Marine Rude. Shannon Michael Russell. Kyle Stephen Rude.
Charles Allen Peterson. Kirsten Ann Rydeen. Jonathan Ira Sadoff. Amy Lynn Salinger. Sherry Kathleen Sanders. Krista Nicolene Sather. Daniel Mark Savitt. Jennifer Elizabeth Scanlon. Shelley Lynn Shaky. Anthony John Shopper. Stacy Marie Shellbach. Sarah Ann Schimmel. Robert Craig Schindler. Brian Lee Schoen. Sherry Lynn Schreck. Carl Arthur Schreiner. David John Schultz. Audra Mae Schultz. Lisa Jean Schuneman. Leslie Beth Schwartz. Lisa Beth Schwartz. Jill Lee Scott. Christopher Robert Scribner. Lynn Noel Schudick.
Todd Michael Sheedy. Helen Marie Seeley. Sabran Sadair. Kyle Jason Shepard. Raishami Shiroli. Heather Ann Seifert. Scott Allen Sifferly. Mara Beth Silver. Kelly Ann Shamshak. Shan Ray Slater. Jolene Sen. Tracy Lee Schultz. Julia Schmiedoff. Deborah Merrill Schaff. David William Salmi. Christopher Paul Slater. Michael Keith Slater. Anne-Marie Singer. Monica Lee Seams. Adrian F. Scharf. Nelson Douglas Sewell. Craig Michael Sinclair. Ari Schaefer.
Lori Beth Schlesinger, Richard William Smart, Daniel James Smithstead, Richard Michael Smysick, Alan Joseph Smith, Andrew Charlton Smith, Pamela Marie Smith, Shannon Marie Smith, Stephen Charles Snook, Lisa Kirsten Soland, Louis Sorrell V, Annette L. Spivacek, Susan Lynn Spivak, Brent Richard Spindler, Ellen K. Spitalnik, Angela Joy Stahlheim, Craig Frederick Steen, Catherine Ann Stenzel, Stephen Gary Sterud, Aaron Evans Stewart,
Jonathan E. Smock, Shelley Marie Sutherling, Patrick Joseph Staster, Timothy Paul Streeter, Teresa Lynn Streifel, Catherine Jane Stuck, Mark David Sundgren, Lori Ann Swanovich, Karen Lynn Swedberg, Sean K. Swedberg, Robert Linnell Swenson, Tal Tahir, Daniel Zen Tan, Delos William Taylor, Lawrence Burnett Temple, John Spencer Teedy, Mark Allen Thompson, Sherry Diet Thompson, Neil E. Thompson,
Yanda Glosandra Thompson, Putala Tong Cham Lung Suk, John Mitchell Thor, Andrew John Kitcomb, William John Felicity, Mary Jo Elizabeth Tombers, Donald George Toner Jr., Cedric Danielle Townsend, Scott Stephen Tracy, Monica Ann Tranby, Michelle Marie Treptow, Julie Dawn Trumbull, Stephen Joseph Chocker, Scott David Tuma, Lisa Aaron Tunnell, Jamie Lee Turbeck, Jean Elizabeth Toomey, Philip Charles Urbanski, Eric Scott Vagel, Angela Valero de Palma,
Kevin John Viken, James Kenneth Walker, John Samuel Wallace, Mitra Marie Walter, Lee Ann Walters, Amy Marie Walvatney, Robin Alyssa Warmbo, James Brian Wartnick, Janet Catherine Wemhoff, Christy Ann Weigel, Dina Marie White, Jeffrey Michael Wentz, John Frederick Westfall, Teresa Lynn Whalen, Warren Edward White,
Paula K. Wheeler, Mark Allen Wichard,
Jeffrey Thomas Whitney, Catherine Elizabeth Weil, Brian David Wilkerson, Christina Lee Williams, Janelle Judith Williams, Andrew Eric Williamson, Kristen Catherine Winter, Christine Mary Wowen, Common Wong, Brett Anthony Wood, Mark Scott Wright, Kelly Joe Worrell, Lynn Michelle Younglove, Catherine Ann Zeman, and Derek James Zimmel.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, let her go.
How you doing? No more school!
Marcel!